All right, today with us at the show, we've got Clint Prange, a regional business manager with Becks Hybrids. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Tom. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. So, start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you've done, and what you're doing now currently with Becks, and then we want to dive into the whole AI world. Right, that's what we're here to
Yeah,
talk about,
yeah,
and what it can do, and what it can't do, and what
yeah.
should it do.
You said regional business manager Clint Prange. I've been with Becks about 11 years now. Actually, it is over 11 years now. Live in Northeast Missouri, and before that, worked with another seed company. Worked in agronomy as well as we call it a seed advisor, DSM, and then before that, worked in ag finance for the farm credit system at one point in time too. Farm with my family. So we have a row crop operation, cattle operation there in Northeast Missouri. So I still get a chance to get my hands dirty doing some of that stuff. And then also been married to my wife Amber for 21 years. We have 3 kids, and so when we're not chasing work, we're chasing them to different sporting events. And a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then a 6-year-old. So that's the one that
Oh
keeps
wow,
us young. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the definition of busy right
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of what I get a chance to do at Bex is actually I do a tremendous amount of networking with people that might have an opportunity to maybe come on board here at some point in time through interviews, through just visits there. Of course, a lot of interactions with dealers, talking about their business, talking about opportunities. If you think about, I grew up on a farm in the '80s, and I was not taught this until later on in life, but they always say when you look at your career paths that you pick, it usually has something to do with something that was traumatic in your childhood. And I remember hearing that for one time, thinking, I mean, I never had anything traumatic happen to me in my childhood. Our parents worked hard. We were on the farm. I had 2 younger sisters. I was probably more traumatizing to them than than,
Mm-hmm.
than I ever had anything to me. And then it hit me one day. It's like, yeah, our family, we were blessed. We were able to make it out of the '80s, but it wasn't without strife, right? As a kid, even though I wasn't the one writing checks, I knew what was going on a little
Right.
bit, or had an idea, anyways. And so that's kind of shaped the things that I've done professionally. So I started. I can still remember the place I was at in college where I told a recruiter one time, what is it that you want to do? And I said, I'm not for sure what I want to do. All I know is I want to help farmers, and I want to help farmers make money. Um, I know exactly where I was standing when I said that, and so I had a chance to work in the farm credit system. I had a chance to work in seed and agronomy, and a chance to influence there, and then these sales roles that I've had with Bex, which as you well know, even if you're in sales here at Bex, you're also in agronomy.
Mm, yeah.
I think like Sonny told me one time, he loves to hire people that really have an agronomy background that then have a passion to drive, and I think that's kind of what's got me to here where I'm at, and probably our topic today, AI. Like I am the most untechnological technology person out there. I was the guy that had a VCR that I never set the time on the VCR because I couldn't remember how to do it. But I do have a passion around using things like precision ag, or even AI to become more efficient. I think it's something you share as well too. Is that we only have so many hours in this lifetime, many days in
Right.
this lifetime, and so if I can be more efficient with them than what I could be without something, I'm going to try to
Right.
go down that pathway.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it does increase efficiency, and that's where I see it tying in with you and me as well. You
Yep.
hit that spot on. So, what? How have you used it so far? I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. We can start. There's a lot to talk about. This topic will be a long one possibly, but
Yeah.
how have you used it? I guess I want to look at it specifically probably from the agricultural side,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe tie that in with some of your other things that maybe aren't maybe ag based. But I look at marketing. Right, marketing is a hot button, and we can all do a better job of that. And
Right.
so, how do we utilize it for marketing? Obviously, it can't predict the future, right?
Yeah.
AI is, maybe we need to define what AI actually is, right? There could be a lot of
Right.
things it could be
True.
we could
True.
cross reference with. Um, and I think a lot of the big things, I think, AI is a fancy name, right? We've heard machine learning, right? We've
Right.
heard big data in the past, and I think a lot of those things have morphed into AI.
Right.
I don't know that it doesn't. I don't know that it tells us things we don't already know or aren't
Yeah.
founded.
Right.
It's just a lot quicker way to be able to get there, right?
Yeah. Well, You hit a lot of things we can talk about here. I mean, I'll give you a little bit my own personal journey. So I was one of these guys initially when I can still remember hearing about Chat GPT when it first came out. And once I heard that college students were using Chat GPT to graduate college, I was my conservative nature was like, I'm never going to touch that stuff. I mean, that's cheating. Why would you do that? If
Mm-hmm.
I turned into the old fogey all of a sudden. The guy's sitting on the porch saying, "Why are these kids playing on my lawn?"
Yeah, right.
And it was so my own maybe evolution through AI was up till probably about 16 or 18 months ago. I hadn't used any AI technology because I had the mindset that RI, which is real intelligence, will always beat artificial intelligence, and so what kind of helped change some of that for me, or at least my thought of kind of dipping my toe into it, was Tom Hooper, our director of business. He was actually he said that at one of our conferences one time. RI will always be better than AI. However, and I'm summarizing here. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but there is an opportunity where RI can use AI to go to places that we've never thought about before. I remember calling Tom up one day and said, "So tell me more about that comment." And he just shared some different things he had done it was simply for me starting off with, I actually, went into, I think it was Chat GPT, the free version of Chat GPT, and entered a prompt. It's not a question, it's a prompt, and said, "Hey, write me an email about this." And then I took that email body and I gave it some context. And then I took that email and I added in the things that I wanted to add in, took out the things I didn't want to add in. And again, that thought partner that I was using AI to help me out with, something that probably would have taken me not just an email, but just the thought that goes into it, making sure I'm making the right points, making sure I'm using the right tone. That sometimes can take an hour, maybe to do it the right way. All of a sudden, I got some of that framework of that done in 3 minutes and freed up another 57 minutes of my day to go do something else at that point. So that once I saw some of that stuff happening, I'm thinking, okay, there might be something to this. It made me start doing a little bit of my own search as to what is artificial intelligence. And of course, the first time I heard the term artificial intelligence, I said, "Man, I'd be a great person to talk about that." There's and um, the pieces around artificial intelligence, and again, I'm not the person that could probably to describe all the mechanics of those pieces of it, but the reality is, you said it there earlier, for the most part, the types of artificial intelligence that are out there are not going to tell us anything that we don't already know. They are simply helping us to organize thoughts, ideas, concepts in a much more organized, much more efficient fashion than we would do without ourselves. Now, yes, we can start going down that pathway of machine learning, those types of things, and some of those are becoming reality, but some of those are a little ways down the pathway, I think. But for right now, the biggest spaces I've been using in the artificial learning or artificial intelligence is more around as a thought partner. I think for agriculture, my experience with farmers specifically, man, there is such a wealth of knowledge between their ears.
Mm-hmm.
Wealth of knowledge there. And artificial intelligence is one of those things that it can help that knowledge, which probably for a lot of us at times at farming, we feel like we got all this information up here, but we can never get it back out at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It can maybe help us organize some of that, help us organize our days, organize maybe, and maybe even help us look at some things that we think we know. And I heard this comment the other day. It's like sometimes the biggest things that we have that gets in the way of us growing are the things that we think that we do know. And so what you know does prevent you from growing sometimes. And AI can help you challenge you that on some of those things as well.
Yeah. What I've seen it does, and to that point, it takes a little bit of the emotion out, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of brings it down to the facts and I'll say, takes the human factor out of it, where our emotions get involved, and maybe we're not making the right decision based on the facts. We're basing it on emotion. So
and to your point, because of how that's wired, you can actually put the human factor back into it. You could tell it to act that certain way, and it help give you an idea of what that conversation may look like if you put that human motion into it. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned around grain marketing, and I know there's one of the comments around AI is like it's going to take over so many jobs. And I gave a speech there at our Christmas extravaganza. We were talking about some of the common things where people were concerned about that. When the printing press first came out, people were so concerned that the printing press, when it came out, was going to eliminate all these jobs, these people that were hand transcribing books. That turned out okay. It actually created more jobs. Same way with the internet. The internet's going to take away all these jobs, and actually, anytime innovation shows up, typically that breeds more opportunity for more innovation, which takes more people. It may change the way that we do our jobs,
Yep.
which may not all be all that bad at that point in time, too.
Yeah, the job that we've done evolves into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like grain marketing, I never want to take away from like the work that those guys like Matt Bennett and those types of people do. I mean, they do a fantastic job at mentoring and helping people coach through the strategies that they're using. But I'd say I don't know all their business they're doing, but they're probably even utilizing AI to help make sure they're making better recommendations than what they have been in the past as well, too.
Yeah, and where I was going earlier is it makes me wonder. Of course, I always want to know what's my scorecard, right? How am I doing, right?
Yep.
Just like going to school. If you could plug in the last 5 years of your grain marketing and say, hey, how much of the market, how much opportunity did I miss in the market? Am I at the 80 percentile, or am I at 95%, or am I at 60? How bad do I need a Matt Bennett, right? Or how bad do I need to change and tweak my marketing? And those things are hard to do if you really want to sit down and crunch the numbers manually. But I'm thinking AI could punch that out relatively quick.
And this is I'm self-reflecting on my own struggles and my own self as a farmer. Sometimes as a farmers, we're really good at execution. We're really good at seeing a problem, knowing what we got to do to fix a problem, and doing that. Sometimes what we don't, just because of, okay, there's cows to feed, there's kids to go chase, there's other things to go do, you don't take time to sit back and think strategically. And strategic and execution are, Ryan Park and I, our director of sales, were talking about that the other day. Those are sometimes, both are very good, but you got to make sure strategically you're taking some time to think about some of that stuff. AI is a great opportunity where it can, but what you just said there, you could take your last 5 years of grain marketing, put that into AI and say, hey, I'd like you to act as a strategic business partner. What trends do you see that that you would point out to me that maybe I have not addressed at this point in time? And again, it's going to give you information you probably already know. It's just going to do it, or it may give you a few things that I never had thought about that before too.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot to that side. It's just, I look at it and say, how do we bring it to real world with economics to be able to help sharpen our skills? Now, indication, history can be an indication of the future, but it's not going to tell us when to sell, right? Because
right.
Even AI doesn't know when the high is going to be in the corn market for 2026.
I've used the example of a pair of pliers, right? A pair of pliers, and I held that up amongst a group of our dealers one time. I said, what do these pliers do? And I started getting a lot of answers from the crowd. And I said, these pliers don't do anything. They are an inanimate object, and that's kind of where AI is a little bit like, it doesn't do anything. It still takes the human factor of it'll give you information. You still have to go do something with that. Now there might be some opportunities and some tasks that AI can help you automate a little bit, but you still have to go set it up to do that at that point in time. So how are you using AI right now in your business?
To be honest with you, we've been slow adopters.
Yep.
We get into, I'll say, the strategy doesn't happen near as much as it should, and we get into too much doing. I want to utilize it in the future just for flat out efficiencies. How do we implement, I don't want to say AI, but how do we do what we've always done, just streamline? Right. And so so we haven't utilized it near like we should. We've got some people that on the outside that have helped us with those things, but to say that we've directly, I can't give you a site case or a specific case where it's totally changed my world.
Well,
to date,
you're sitting in a lot of spot that I think we all are from a standpoint of like curiosity, and so I'll give you some things that, and maybe some of your listeners and viewers, some things that maybe have helped me get through some of the things. Like the first questions I had were, okay, which AI systems are maybe the most user friendly? And I don't own stock in any of these, right? But ChatGPT is the one that everybody hears quite a bit about, and excuse me, probably the one that I've seen probably produces the most. If you're looking for that thought partner, that's the opportunity that you can get in there. You can have those types of prompts, those questions, those conversations, and it's going to give you a really good feedback conversational piece with it. And the nice thing about like Chat GPT, if you're, or any AI for that standpoint, if you are worried about how is it using your information, or what are the security pieces that you need to put in place, all you have to do is type that in. Hey, tell me how you're using my information, and walk me through step by step how I would lock down my data. So all of those have built-in features that keep that from happening, whether that be paid for services or actually buttons that you can turn off. So there's Chat GPT that I feel is very safe. There is Gemini, so Google's, and I use Gemini quite a bit for helping me think through designs of things. So I'm not a very creative person when it comes to, okay, look at this office space that's here, and then tell me, give me a way to redesign this. Does a great job with imagery around that. If people are trying to think about from a farm standpoint, I don't want to take any marketing teams' jobs, but they could design their own logos with that, or give them some ideas around logos. So there's some ideas from that. So Gemini, or excuse me, yes, Gemini as well as Chat GPT. Another one I use, back to that efficiency standpoint, is Notebook LM. So that's another one from Google. I use it all the time from a standpoint of, I do quite a bit of driving with my job, and so I, rather than listen to the radio anymore, I like to listen to podcasts, to visits, and so I can take several data sources that maybe it's on grain marketing, for instance. So Matt Bennett's his grain updates that he does, I'll actually take about 5 or 6 of those, stick them in that are one update, put them into one notebook, and it'll create a podcast for me to listen to about that information. Yeah. Or even emails. We all get them. We all get lots of emails. We probably all do the same thing. We probably skim a lot of emails. I can take some of those email bodies and turn those into podcasts to listen to as well. So those are 3 of my ones that, again, and you talked about like the usage piece of it. There's no right or wrong way. You'll go on YouTube and it'll say you're using AI the wrong way, and I guess I would disagree that I don't know if you could use AI the wrong way. Yeah, there's probably more efficient ways you could use it, but I don't think there is a wrong way to use it. Now, that being said, there's probably some safety things that we ought to pay attention to. You know, I never would put my name and my address and my social security into an AI engine, because it's going to use that if I don't have that locked down to learn as it's kicking information out. So, and there's some of those things that are out there, as far as like ChatGPT has some pieces built in that once it senses some weird stuff's going on with it, as far as illegal activity, that kind of information is being fed into it, it'll actually say, whoa, something doesn't seem right now.
Really?
Now, I would imagine you've got some people that are much smarter than what I am at how to utilize AI. I can figure out how to bypass that kind of stuff. But there are some of those that are built that way. There are also some AI pieces out there, or engines that, you know, this is my experience, but this is there's some ones, I cannot think of a couple of the names of them, but anything that's owned by the Chinese, by a Chinese owned company, by law, those companies have to share that information with the Chinese government. And so they may be great systems, but just know that, you know, like in the U.S., if it's a U.S. owned company, we don't have those same type of sharing pieces back and forth too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's some watch outs. What are some of the other watch outs that we need to?
Yeah,
I don't want to say, you know, be afraid of, but be aware of.
Yeah. So I was with a pharma group last week. We talked about, like, so AI can have hallucinations, right? And so a hallucination, I think the definition of a hallucination is like, okay, the way the programs are set up, that AI wants to give you the right answer, and it's supposed to try to give you the best possible answer it possibly can. If it can't figure it out, it could potentially give you a wrong answer. It could hallucinate. Which you and I were talking before this, like, I know human beings that do that all the time. Right? They want to give you an answer. That may be human psychology. Again, that's the scary part about how this AI is wired. It's wired to think a little bit like a human brain. But again, that's where my mindset goes to. Like, AI, okay, it's never going to take a person that does not know and turn them into a person that's an expert. You got to have a little bit of a base background of understanding of what you're doing to really accelerate what you can learn with AI.
Yeah, it's only as good as your prompts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's yeah. And so the prompt piece of it, like, if you want to get really good at AI, you need to get really good at prompt writing. It's funny. Several years ago, you would hear people talking about computer coding is going to be the next generation of technological advancement and education. Now you're hearing people talk about having courses on writing prompts, which
Mm-hmm.
writing prompts, it really in our world is just a fancy way of saying asking good
Questions,
questions, and
Yep.
which it blows me away. And how many conflicts in human society would be eliminated by the ability to ask good questions and slow down long enough to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit of, if you've got some of that background as far as being able to ask really good questions and stop and critically think once you're given a response, you can start doing some really amazing things with AI at that point in time.
Yeah. What else have you seen or done with it? What other sweet spots are there that our audience needs to hear about?
Boy, so sweet spots. So I'll put this through a couple lenses. So I do a little bit of farming, and then also have family life as well too, and then of course working for Becks. So, from a farming aspect, I've sharing with you, I've done different things on the farm from take imagery. I was working on the electrical setup of a stirrator on our farm. Now, the first thing that your audience may say is like, well, that was your first issue. You had a stirrator. Uh, but again, I was trying to diagnose something after hours, trying to figure a couple things out. And again, I was like, man, maybe we'll see what happens here. And so I loaded the model of stirrator. I loaded what it was. I actually found the user guide, put the PDF in my chat GPT, took a photo of how it was wired up and said, would you give me your opinion on how you believe this is wired up or things I should check? And it gave me a top 10 checklist based upon that. And again, I'm a novice electrician, but I went through all that. I'm thinking, yeah, and I'm glad I had that checklist right there, because I probably would have done this one, but then I would have jumped over here and done that one, and I probably would have missed the opportunity to do that one. So we did get it running finally.
Really?
But that was actually after I went through my checklist, and I still had somebody come and mess with the mercury switches. But again, there was an example of, again, it was just very efficient versus going through the manual.
How long did that take?
Oh, so it took me, well, put it this way. Beforehand, I'd spent about 30 minutes getting really upset why I couldn't figure it out. And then I'm like, I'm just going to give this a shot. And within 3 minutes, I had this whole checklist, went through everything I need to go through. And I still didn't have the problem completely diagnosed at that point in time. But I could have been up there for another hour, hour and a half, before I would have just said the heck with it. Now, somebody may say, well, that's simple. Just walk away from it next time and let somebody else come take care of that. And we all know on the farm, like sometimes I just, well, I want to take care of doing things. Okay. Right. And so, yeah, very, very quick. I mean, I actually, in that scenario, I went to the Sukup website, found the model that I had, downloaded the operator guide, put it in chat GPT, and that whole process took 3 minutes to do that.
Standing in a bin.
Standing in a bin, yes, with only my Verizon LTE service at that point in time. Yeah.
Wow.
So you have those, and I've had mechanic friends tell me they do the same things when it comes to, like, maybe they'll look at trying to order a part, take an image of a part, say, hey, could you go ahead and help me find where these parts may be located at possibly, and they will do that. And they said it's crazy how quickly that can find some information, mainly like auto parts types of things. So there's another application there. Another one, this is going to sound like a farming side of it. One Sunday afternoon, which again, working an off-farm job, I got to make every chance I can work as far as opportunity on the farm. So we were on a Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting in the grain cart, trying to actually think about ways. There's 60 acres that borders me that I've been trying to figure out how can I make the sales pitch to get this guy to sell this to me. And every year I ask him, and again, this is a way that wasn't necessarily successful, but the unique way is I actually took an overhead photo of that farm. I asked the chat GPT, I think I used chat on that one, I used Gemini. But anyways, I asked it to act as a land appraiser for that area and draw up a one-pager land appraisal based upon current year sales in the area, and then also put together for me a one-pager prospectus I could hand to that guy. And so I did that, and it did a really good job. I wanted to know if I wanted to put my farm logo on it and everything, and
really,
and I emailed it to that guy. And again, that was on a Sunday afternoon. It took me longer to think about what I was going to do than it actually took me to do that. But I sent that to him. He said, "Man, I'm still not ready to sell the farm." But he goes, "Man, I really appreciate all the work and time and effort you put into that." And now, whether I did or not, but I just like, okay, that helped put me at the top of the list of consideration. Maybe that it would have taken me maybe a day and a half to do that versus took me 15 minutes sitting in a tractor cab.
So how long did it take? So you mentioned the thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Include that into your time, right?
Yeah.
Your presentation. How long did that entire from I'll say conception to
Yeah.
final product that you handed the potential landlord?
I'm trying to think how I even came up with that idea. I think maybe yeah, that idea, the concept of that probably was I literally was probably born on a Sunday afternoon thinking about well, I know what it was. I was looking, had gone through Facebook like we all do when we're sitting in a tractor cab once in a while, and people were posting land sales, and it's really excited to get excited about land that's being sold other places, and then it made me think to myself like, man, those are very fancy prospectuses that they have there. Why don't I take that same process and apply it to this farm over here or that farm and so that was kind of that mindset, and then going from the hey, design it this way, that we're really talking about again a Sunday afternoon, and I don't know if that hit me at 2 o'clock, and by 3:30 I was already sitting that on at that point in time and refined it a couple of times. But then once you get that process established,
Right.
it's pretty quick.
Right.
So that was and again, that was a thought partner idea there. And I'm just not that creative by myself, but it was nice to be able to utilize that to be able to pull that creativity out of me at that point in time. Travel, I've done that before from a family planning standpoint. So busy family life back at home, but then also have a busy work life as well too. I wanted to go out to see one of our dealers that's out in Colorado one time, but I wanted to make sure I could get there and get back within like a 48-hour time frame, because it just happened to be the window that I had to get back to one of my kids' ball games, and and so I was trying to weigh out, do I just drive it? Do I fly? What do I do? And so I went into Chat GPT and I said, hey, this is the travel I want to take. I want to get back out here. I still want to have this much time at that location to visit, but then also get back by this time. What would you recommend? It gave me three options. One of those I didn't even think about, which was the train travel. Train. And so, great thing about the train is you can sleep the entire way or work the entire way that you're going there and going back. But so again, just thought, and now since I did that, I was showing some people this. I've seen a lot of moms who do vacation planning, and they're like, "Oh, I use it all the time for that." And it does. It plans out activities. It plans out things that you could do, or gives you ideas, anyways.
So did you take the train?
I did take the train, actually. Yes,
Seriously?
I did. So that train is actually 25. The train stop that I got on is 25 miles from my house. I've never jumped on it my entire life. Got on that. I will tell you, other than being a tall person, it's a great experience. But yeah, I mean, the entire way out there, I pretty much it was night travel. So I ended up doing a lot of work because I couldn't sleep that well. The next day we hung out in Colorado, did the things that we needed to get done. Saw some dealers, saw some customers. Got back on the train that evening, like at 11 o'clock at night. Now, since I did not sleep the night before, I slept like a baby the entire way home. Woke up the next day about mid afternoon, back home, and so yeah, very efficient at that point in time. And I had never would have thought about the train had I not typed that into Chat GPT. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
so there you go. Maybe Amtrak owns stock in Chat GPT.
They may. They may.
And that is a
Kind of
question.
like a Google search.
It is, yeah, kind of Google search, right. And that's one of the things that people do ask me from time to time, like, well, it's learning information. So can you feed bad information into
Sure.
into any of these systems, and then get bad information out? And I guess my answer to that is like I think we could do that with any educational system, quite frankly.
You can do that with Google. You can do, any search engine, you can do the exact same thing on, right?
Yeah, and so I don't know if I get that concerned about that, actually.
So a question I have is if you and I are on the same account
Mhm.
and we type in the exact same questions, is
Yeah.
it going to give us the exact same answers? It depends on if.
So, yeah, if it's the first time that both of us have ever interacted with that account, I think there's a high likelihood that it will. However, because it's always learning to you, it's customizing that answer a little bit to your, I won't call it biases, but maybe how you've responded to some of those conversations. So there's going to be some similar things. That's one of the things that I would say, like back to again, if 100 people said, "Hey, design me a farm logo that has
Right.
pigs and cows and corn on it," and you send that into any of your AI engines, it's going to give you very similar looking things. Now, if that's even at that time, if you've had probably some interaction with it, it's going to give you a little bit of your own biases, but it's going to be very similar. But it's going to give you still some good ideas that then you can then kind of go off of that with. The answer side of it, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of consistency there, but it's going to change a little bit over time as it learns more about how you respond to things too.
So let's flip it over and let's look at it from I'll say a PFR perspective.
Yeah.
And I love the PFR book.
Right.
Be honest, I used to read it cover to cover back in the day.
Yeah.
And there's so much in the covers now, right, that it's almost impossible to, I don't want to say read the data, right, but retain the data and be able to act on it. And so, what do you know about, can I go in and ask PFR, right?
Yeah.
Anything, right? Let's talk about 2x2 fertilizer.
Yep.
And, I know closing wheels have been a huge conversation piece that's, been gone over many, many times. And then could you use it to say, okay, well, that particular study doesn't fit into my operation, right? I can't implement that practice. So can it come up with other recommendations, or how far down that road do you know anyone has gone?
Yeah. So actually, again, so since I've become more accustomed with ChatGPT, as soon as I get a book of any sort, I dump it into my ChatGPT so I can do exactly what you're talking about. And so, like this last year, when the last version of the PFR book came out, the first thing that I did was dump it in there because I'm just like you, just whether it's a reason or an excuse, I just don't have time to read that thing from cover to cover. And even if I did, I can't retain it all.
Right.
Lucky for us, Becks understands that, right? I mean, that book is a wealth of value, but not just the book, it's the combination of all the studies that have been done over time too. And so I'll back up here. So at Becks, and again, if any of your viewers or customers ever have questions about AI, we actually have an AI ambassador program where we've got some people that are more on the tech side of it. Gavin Rulon, who talks about that, he talks about it. He's really good at the nerdy stuff, and I'm glad he calls himself that. I think it's so funny. But I mean, he answers questions to things that I don't necessarily know the background of on the machine side of it. But he helped us kind of start that whole AI ambassador program to get people more accustomed to it, because rather than us as a company just kind of come out with like, this is how you're going to use AI, this is how you're not going to use AI, our thought process has always been find really smart people, give them tools, and then let them figure out suggestions from that. Now, out of some of that mindset was born a little bit of this ask anything portion you talked about. So I had that. I talked about what I did with the PFR book. Well, luckily, a lot of people are a lot smarter than I am at Becks thought about, well, how do we not only take the 1 year's of data, but let's take as much PFR data. So currently there actually is, if you go on the Becks website, if you go to anywhere besides our Seed IQ tab, there's going to be a prompt that says ask anything. It's going to say, do you have any agronomy or PFR questions? And if you click on that, it's an AI driven engine that's right now currently, it's always being updated. That's the thing about AI. Whenever you're using AI, that is the worst version of AI that you're ever going to be using that day, because it's constantly learning and being fed in more information. So that current version that's in there right now, I think at minimum it has at least the last 6 years of PFR data. It has every agronomy white paper that we've ever done. It also has all of our local field agronomists. So Ben Wigman, Matt Montgomery, Andrew Malcolmson, Chad Kaler, Drew Beckman in Illinois specifically. Everybody. It's got all of their information that they have read into, or observations that they have read in locally on different maybe agronomy practices. So we have forced them to sit down and read information, and it's taken all of that information and processing it, and so it's going to give you those recommendations. So say okay, I'm for Effingham County, would you give me the top suggested ROI practices for corn for the upcoming year? And it's going to give you a list, and you're going to say that's one. A couple of those are ones that you're like, yeah, I don't have 2x2 on my planter. Would you have any other suggestions? It's going to refine that discussion, and again, it's going to encourage you to continue to have discussions. You can go down all kinds of rabbit trails with some of those, which I think some of that was also going to prompt you at some point in time. You're going to take that rabbit trail so far, I just need to go find the book and read that page type of deal.
Sure.
And that's probably not a bad day for learning, right? I do look at AI a little bit from that efficiency standpoint. It's never going to replace actual learning.
Right. It's just gonna tweak it.
It's going to tweak it, absolutely.
And I go back and say, okay, so I don't have 2x2 in my planner, to use your example. Okay, but what is the ROI? What's the long-term ROI on
Yeah.
2x2 applications in my area?
Yes.
And how many years of data is that? And
Yep.
How do we use it to make a better decision? Because you get into some of these things and it can be an emotional decision, right?
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
I don't want to screw with 2x2 in my planner. I don't have the manpower. But if we can sit down again and take the emotion out and bring it down to dollars and cents and say, well, it returns $25 an acre over 8 years of studies based on PFR.
Yeah.
It's those are things that we can create ourselves, and we can do all that data crunching, but that takes time.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that is what AI will. I hate to use the term it's going to buy you time, but it could create time in your schedule to be able to do more of that strategic thinking behind the scenes as well too. So that tool does exist currently on the Becks website. It's I don't know. Again, you can go down a lot of rabbit trails really quick, which is fun to do. The other tool that's in there is the Seed IQ system, and that's probably the one that I was telling you beforehand. I think it's got the power to be as powerful as when BT corn came out. And here's why I say that and why I believe that. As when BT corn came out, whenever we had heavy infestations, it was 20 or 30 bushel, right? Wherever people had heavy corn borer versus where they didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think there's places where you don't necessarily need the BT. That's completely fine. But with all the data that we have wrapped up here at Becks on, we know more about these products when it comes to the roots. We know more about them when it comes to silks and the silk reveal, the kernel reveal. So the kernel reveal is going to be more about how does that corn make its yield? Is it more of a hybrid that's going to be doing it off a kernel count, or is it going to be more off a kernel size? Okay. And having the breadth of the genetic background that we do, knowing all the information that we know about that, plus our product characterization data on top of that, we've got more information than we've ever had before. And using an AI engine behind the scenes on that, it's going to allow us to think about using products, not just the product, but the management behind the product than we ever have before. Case in point, I was sharing with you again ahead of time. I was at a guy's place there this week. Not a prospect, not planting Becks yet. It doesn't make him a bad person at all. But they were telling me that they were planting 7 or 8 year old genetics from the company they were with currently. And the reason being, these are people that really pay attention to their data. They felt like the information they were getting from where the company they were sourcing genetics from, just their data was better than that. And the 7 or 8 years or 8 year old genetics. And again, back in my mind, I'm processing it, and they realized it too. They said, yes, genetic gain is real. And I said, so what do you think you're giving up by that? And they're like, we get it. We're probably giving up something, but we just don't have enough data to back up going to someplace else. And then we started going down this pathway of, well, what if you had this information on silks? What if you had this information on roots? What if you had this information from your local field agronomist? And they said, yeah, that would definitely get me off center more about thinking about going down this pathway. Well, 8 years of planting genetics, 3 years, maybe 3 bushel per year, 24 bushel.
Yep.
And so now I know that's not the case with everybody, but I think about the Seed IQ I was using this analogy today too with somebody. You think about how we have picked corn products for the most part and everybody does it in the industry. We've done it a lot about looking in the past, right? Looking at plot data at the past and without as much and didn't have enough maybe ability to analyze the data to look forward tremendously further. And I do believe Seed IQ gives you that chance. Otherwise it's kind of like getting on the interstate running 90 mile an hour and not having a windshield. All you got's a rear view mirror. This is going to be able to maybe at least open up a little bit more of that front window. Again, and there's some things that we can't predict, right? Like I can give you a little bit of weather indication, and we can feed that into AI, but still, we all know Mother Nature still has her own time frame at times too.
Yeah, it's just taking everything we know and applying it to today, right? Yeah. I think Seed IQ is going to be a game changer in the entire industry. To be honest with you, it does give us that look ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. What do we know about this hybrid? And again, root reveal, silk reveal.
Yeah.
The PCR deal we've got going on with the kernels. It's the product characterization is just so.
Yeah.
I don't want to say forward thinking, right? I don't want to say futuristic because it's
It's
here,
here, right?
but it's what we've always needed in this industry.
Well,
It just brings it to the forefront. Now it's usable.
and then you take that piece of it, and then we take the PFR, we take the management side of it, and we're able to apply those things together. Because I do, I mean, again, sitting in the farmer's seat at times, you know, or now a lot of times you'll sit there and listen to a change that people are proposing for your farming operation, and it's like, I get it, but I know what works right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the risk is too great to upset that apple cart tremendously without good concrete data and evidence. And again, like you said, Seed IQ allows us to get to that, maybe that evidence for somebody a little faster, or at least I shouldn't say evidence as much as it is proof and belief that we can get there at that point in time.
Comfort with knowledge.
Absolutely.
Because of knowledge.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, for those reasons, I'm very excited. You know, of course, from the Seed IQ, the Ask Anything piece of it. Another level that's coming actually this summer that we're going to be utilizing more is I know you're pretty big with local field data too. Is like the data which you can pull out of farm server. So then taking a farmer's data that he's also got field level data that hones in that piece of it that much more. And again, I'm dreaming here a little bit. No one's told me this, we're in this pathway, but you know, can imagine, okay, if I've got field level farm data, I've got this data that I have on products now. Maybe I've got some of my financial data that I can pull into that piece of it as well too. Help me identify trends. Help me identify some things I should be thinking about tweaking to make this move here. And I don't know. We're in March Madness right now, right? This is not necessarily, you know, if you're down by 10, there's no such thing as a 10-point shot. Okay, there's just no such thing as a 10-point shot. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out brick by brick or step by step or shot by shot, 2-pointer, free throws, maybe 3-pointers in there. How do I get ahead? Right. This gives you the pathway to do that. Mm-hmm. Versus at this point in time, if you're, and let's face it, in ag, at times it feels like we're down by 10, right? You know, and then you know, we've geopolitical things pop up, and all of a sudden we're down by 40 really quick.
Right.
And you know, this might help us in those situations where they pop up like that. And that's, you know, that's, again, maybe that was the part of going through the 80s as a farm kid. Like, struggle is always going to be there, right? Sure. AI can maybe help us figure out the steps to get through some of that struggle to get to the other end of the tunnel.
Yep. How do we lessen it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I sit back and want to know, you know, you kind of look at the year and, okay, what did I do wrong? What should have I done? Mm-hmm. Here's what I did, right? You know, you think back of what your weather events were when you applied nitrogen, whatever the case might be. And, you know, I look at a day maybe where you could plug all of that in there and say, you know, based on what we see or what we know from your area and the yield results that are in there. And again, we'd have to feed it some of that information, I know.
Yeah.
Just to help better manage, right? Because again, we get emotional and we think, oh, we've only got this window and we need to do it by here. But was that the right decision at the time? And it's hard to play that back when you're looking back 3 and 4 months, right? And remember all of those events, right, that we need to factor on.
Well, this is a spot where actually we kind of have some of that right now. Opportunity a little bit. It's whether or not we want to execute on the discipline of taking time to write that stuff, write it down, or talk to it. So, you know, there's a nice feature on chat or voice notes on your phone. At the end of every day, you could kind of give me, you know, there's probably still some people out there today that journal every day. I'm horrible about slowing down enough at the end of the day to write everything down. But I am better is probably 2 to 3 times a week I will make a voice note of what went on that day. And I used to think, why do I need to remember all that stuff? Well, I'm almost 45, Tom. I'm starting to get old, and I can't remember things like I used to.
Really?
and it's not necessarily I can't remember. There's just a lot more jammed into here than what there used to be, right? And so it's been nice to be able to dump that bucket at the end of the day, maybe once or twice a week. Well, if I can take those notes now, dump them into a notebook LM or a chat, transcribe those notes, and give yourself some of that backward-looking piece of it, as well as I've got my mentorship set up with John Wood in there or whatever it may be to help me. I could set my virtual coach up to help coach me through what maybe I should be doing differently for that standpoint. So, yeah, I need to go home and mess with to see if I can have ChatGPT act like Tom Uthell and help me manage my crop a little bit better.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Let me know if it's a train wreck with you.
I will.
that could lead to a lot of thoughts, actually. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about, and I think about, again, efficiencies. I think about, with our business and seed deliveries, and, it's almost, if you plug in your thought process, right? If you, I don't know, again, that's where we're common, like-minded with the efficiency piece. How do we utilize it to be most efficient?
Yep.
And again, some of that stuff just isn't recorded for it to be able to put into the equation, right?
Yep. Yep. So you're talking to. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've talked to a lot of farmers, a lot of customers. Have they been asking you much about AI?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it, I'll say. I think, let's be real. A lot of times when new things like this come out, right,
Mm-hmm.
we want to, I don't want to say I'll say it's done with more cultural things, right?
Sure. Right.
Less real things that we can actually implement.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit of skepticism, I'll say, that it can actually be used for real things. And that's
Right.
kind of why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't just, small things about taking the train to Colorado, right?
Right.
It's like, and that's a big thing, right? Because it is dealing with efficiency, but how do we actually use it in practical everyday life,
Right.
to be able to either do a better job or do it more efficiently?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we increase our ROI with these things? And there's just some things I don't think we know yet.
Yeah.
And it's always going to get better, as you said, because it's always being trained. But
Yeah.
at some point, let's be real. I don't farm like you do, and we don't farm in the same geography.
Right.
So I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it's almost like you need to get on this train as fast as you can so that it's trained up for you to my operation or
Yep.
to me
Yeah.
as much as it can be. Because quite frankly, maybe some of our stuff crosses, but a lot of it won't. And if you're locked down and it's all your data, which is good, right? Which
Yeah.
is the way I like to roll.
Right.
I'm not going to get it anyway, but I don't, yours isn't applicable to my lifestyle.
Your
or my
situation, right?
operation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, and it's funny. Every time I have some of these conversations with people, it kind of goes down the pathway you just went on. It's like, once you get yourself comfortable with it, you're like, wait a minute. Instead of just kind of dip my toe in this, I'm just going to dump everything in at that point. So I get that question, like, how much data should you give it? And again, I think that just depends on everybody's. Because I think the first thought is once a person gets themselves comfortable with the process, they want to take it and run as fast as they possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And that may work out well for some personalities. For me, I went from help me write an email to today. I mean, I'm
taking a train, plane, or an automobile.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not a, I don't know. Well, back to power user. So I'm gonna give you an example of what I think is a power user. Like I was talking to someone last week that they write computer code, and if you talk to people in computer code world, like to some degree, like AI is like it could be the devil type of deal. But this individual said, I was trained in computer code. I have not wrote code for 6 months because I've used AI to write the code that I need to write. And I've been able to spend my time and energy focused on other things that makes the code that much better. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, like he's all in now. It's just like, let's go. How fast can we go? What, why am I not dumping more stuff into this at that point in time? I think that some of that just comes down to our discipline, though. Too. We'll figure out the things that make the most sense efficiently. I know people that use this as they use ChatGPT as their personal trainer. I mean, they have wrote their diet, their workout plan, and they use it as a personal coach every day to check in. How'd I do? They're keeping track of their calories. They're keeping track of all that. We could do that with our planting records. Again, this is my part of being naive. I don't necessarily know if there are any of the systems, whether it's John Deere, whether it's Op Center, Case IH, that is necessarily utilizing AI in the backside to kind of keep all that information. But as a farmer, you hear that efficiency piece. It's like, wait a minute, how do I get one of those type of deal?
Right.
Yeah, back to talked to an ag retailer last week that said he actually used AI, used ChatGPT to write an app that he uses for his own business to keep track of his inventory, logistics, and it's his own app on his own phone.
Sure.
And so it's
the code writing is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And then the question I think starts. People ask like, what? Well, can it do this? Can it do that? Well, the answer is probably yes. But until you start asking it to do those things, you're not going to figure it out for yourself. I'm also a firm believer. I don't know if you can go if you can pick up your phone, order something on Amazon today, you can figure out how to use AI. And so I don't think it's a mechanics thing. Like when we first got into precision planting planters or SMS. A lot of us had to go through a lot of mechanic training. The mechanic piece of it is, as long as you can use a keyboard and use your phone, you're set to go at that point in time.
Yeah. Probably the biggest training you would need on this is how do I ask it good questions?
Yes.
Right? How do I ask and it's no different than a Google search engine or any search engine for that matter. What kind of question did you ask is going to tell you the answer you're going to get, right? And if you tweak a word or two, it's going to give you a totally different response. And there's a knack to that, right? I mean, that's an art, if you will.
And it is, and so whatever kind of framework that someone has when they ask questions, and there's lots of different training resources out there of different prompt training on that. We talked about that earlier. As far as there's actually classes out there on that, but you can jump on YouTube, find a good video on how to jump on YouTube, take the YouTube video, put it in a Notebook LM, and it'll give you a really good framework.
A better way to ask questions in ChatGPT.
But so much of it is that prompting piece of it, and once a person figures that out, that's where it turns into a game changer. Otherwise, it does kind of turn a little bit into, well, why do I know when people first hear this, like, well, why would I use that when I could just use Google? Which is funny. Now, I've noticed now here recently, like Google, like all the answers on Google are almost given to you by an AI version piece of it. I had not used Google for a long time until this week to do some different things. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's everywhere on that piece of it too.
Yeah. So in your mentorship that you have, we need to catch your name on that. So what have you changed in your life based on the mentors that you have?
Well, so I'd actually set that up where you got John Wooden, I have John Wooden as a mentor. I did that on the way down here this morning. John Wooden, John Maxwell, who's a great leadership mentor, and the OG leader, Jesus Christ. So. And so I've got to continue to feed some more information into that, so I know what kind of responses is going to get at that. But what I really hope for that mentorship piece of that, I'm able to ask questions throughout the day. Maybe even, here, this is how my day went. Any coaching that you guys would give me on, here's these activities. Where do you think Clint is doing really well at? Where is Clint falling short at? And just to hear those different perspectives of that. And who knows, there might be some things there that tells me that I didn't want to hear that day, but that's why it's set up to do that.
So on that, did you have to download or upload, I guess, John Maxwell's books and John Wooden, and have you uploaded the Bible or anything?
Initially, no, I have not on these. Now, I may take it down that pathway depending on, like for instance, on John Maxwell or John Wooden, there might be a couple of books that I wanted to pay more attention to. On John Wooden, maybe it's more of a framework piece of it. Now, like the pieces of the Bible, those parts, those are already out there for the most part. And so, and again, like I said there earlier, like I've already got a little bit of familiarity with all three of those people because I've studied all of them, not perfected any of them. And so if I get some type of mentorship piece or information back that doesn't sound like one of those three is giving it, again, I know that's a hallucination, or there's bad information into the AI model at that point in time from someplace. Again, you got to have a little bit of the background knowledge of some of that stuff before you start going down the pathway.
Now
that I'll give you some more of the mechanics. That was actually utilizing ChatGPT to set up my own GPT. So you can actually set up essentially your own ChatGPT that's only focused on that task itself.
Right. So how much bad advice have you gotten from chat or any of the other ones?
Oh man, in general.
In general.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you recognize it pretty quick.
Okay.
I don't know if I could say how. I don't have a percentage, but I mean, there's times where I say bad advice. You can tell because this has been my experience, anyways. Once you start getting like a bad, you have a bad, maybe I'll call it bad. That's a bad term. You have a conversation or you do a prompt and it gives you out information. It's like, this is not taking it anywhere that I want to take it. And then I try to redirect the prompt so that it does take it where I want to take it. I've not had a really good, I think it's because of my lack of patience sometimes, but I'll start trying to, okay, wait a minute, you weren't understanding what I was saying. I meant to say this. Well, it'll almost refer back to my original question a little bit and try to pull that information back in. And then I just say, the heck with it, I'm starting over again.
Right.
I did not start this conversation, which if I think back as we're having this conversation, that would probably be a lot easier in life to hit a reset button than it would be to try to fix things. So what I've noticed is that when you get some of those bad answers, or I'll call them bad answers, not the again, I probably did a bad job of asking the question. That's why I'm getting the answer that I'm getting. I just go ahead and restart over again and try to think about differently how I would ask that question. And then, I don't know. I mean, I would say the days I use AI, which it's not every day, but I'd say at least once a day I'm getting something. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna do that, or I'm not gonna take action on that information that's given me because it just doesn't have the right tone to it. It doesn't have the right feel to it. Also, there are some times where you'll get answers on things. Like I can start spotting when I've seen emails written by AI,
Really?
or I can start. And I don't think I'm the only one that's that way.
No.
You can just see the AI, the emails. You can see wording that's used, and so now that being said, sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing,
No.
but it doesn't make me discount it. And no, I think that is something too. Society. It's funny. Some people say, well, I used AI to do this, and almost like they're apologetic that they did that. It's, which I think that's still that's just the social stigma a little bit that we have. Now I think that'll change over time, but especially in ag, I think sometimes we feel almost guilty, like that we did things. Well, you know what? Yeah, I could have hired somebody to build that fence for me. But you know what? I went ahead and I built the fence and I stayed up till midnight doing all the other stuff I should have been doing, that kind of stuff too. Like we feel guilty at times for doing things the easy way in ag, and it can be perceived as it's the easy way of doing it.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, it's part of it's easy, part of it's efficiency, right?
Yeah.
It depends
Yeah.
on which one you want it to be.
Someone made the comment to me the other day. It's like, well, did you just put that into AI? And then they said, well, have you had a genuine thought in the last 3 months? I said, no, it's been blissful at that point in time.
Yeah, and I know I'll go back to what Tom Hooper had mentioned to you. It's
Yeah.
our eye is going to be better than AI. It's the origination of everything, in my opinion, still comes from the human brain,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And our drive and our passions, and so. I don't think AI is ever going to replace that fully.
Right.
Now, do we want to say that it could? Do we want to make an excuse that we want it to? We can do all of those things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, all creativity is going to come from the human brain, in my opinion.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Again, I've seen Terminator. We've all seen Terminator. I guess I don't want to say never type of thing,
Sure.
but it's also too, like, I don't know, the opportunity for the efficiency standpoints are greatly there, and so why would I not take advantage of that?
Well, it's like anything else, right? I mean, TVs were going to ruin the world, right? And then we talked about the internet and then smartphones, and so this is no different, right? It's another tool. If you don't discipline it, right, it's going to take us down the wrong path. That's the case with any technology or anything that can be, overly overused, I'll say.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. So my great grandparents and then my grandparents, they've had some history of the county that we live in, which is Shelby County, Missouri. And it's funny, you read some of those old books, and I mean, it doesn't matter which version it is, like the 1868 version or the 1920 some odd version. They were done in different time frames, but they always point back to this current generation is going to ruin how things are.
Sure.
And because they're and actually, if you read some of the themes of it, it's because they feel like the current generation is lazier than the past generation.
Sure.
And now, is some of that true or not? There might be some truths to some of that stuff, but I think that is the cool thing about the human brain is we are usually pretty creative to figure out how to do things more efficient at some point in time.
Sure. Well, and I get that. I mean, sure, do we work as hard as they did in 1868?
No.
We don't in a lot of respects, but it depends. I guess I'll ask, what's the definition of what you call work, right? If it's working behind a horse with a single bottom plow, that's hard work, but we didn't get a lot done. So now we're going out and working, 20, 30 acres an hour, 40 acres an hour.
You think about how efficient you are with this thing right here. I mean, whether it's through AI or just phone calls. Sure. I mean, we talk about the 40-hour work week. I mean, like, what do you do after Tuesday? I mean,
exactly.
I mean, what is a 40-hour work week? I mean, we're all on, all the time,
which is good and bad.
Right? It is. That's again, right there. I could use my 3 mentorships to help me do a better work-life balance. But again, growing up on a farm or being around a farm, it's like I always kind of looked at, okay, work is life and life is work, and and they just kind of mesh between all those factors. But you also have your family there, you have those other things there that they're all kind of come together. But yeah, I mean, I think we're always trying to get more done.
Sure.
And AI is a way that helps us get more done. Now, what we fill that additional space with, I think, is probably the opportunity where we are either missing or
Yeah.
we're advancing at that point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah. If we're going to take that time again, but go back to your smartphone. If we're scrolling all the different social media apps out there,
Oh my
yeah, we
gosh.
probably took our efficiency with AI and killed it with something else,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
So how do you get a better work-life balance? If I can
right.
utilize AI through my work, limit your other issues, right? What I'll call social media issues.
You know, it's funny we're talking about this about the adoption piece of it. But I remember about a year ago, I was talking to somebody about AI, and and they said, no, I'm never going to use that. But they're a prevalent user of Snapchat, and I don't even have Snapchat anymore. But then they went from I'm not going to use AI to do that, but they said, look at this really cool filter I can do with my Snapchat. I'm like,
That's AI.
well, yeah, it was just, I got a kick out of it. And part of the reason they didn't want to utilize AI is they were scared about all the data that was going to be taken from them. I'm like, you've got a recording device in your pocket at all times right
24/7.
here. My point in that, I'm not saying fears that data sharing and stuff are unfounded. Just we're giving up a lot more freedoms than we even realize sometimes too.
Right. And
I shouldn't say
and
giving up freedoms. We've given away a lot. I mean, a guy that we mutually know, Clay Glider, said one time, he said, man, how many of those disclosure forms have you signed over time in ag of, hey, and you don't even realize it, you're signing it sometimes, which is not necessarily right, but
sure.
you're going to take my data and you're going to utilize it somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as a farmer, as long as a consumer, I feel like I'm getting something back out in return of that. Some of that data sharing
Is okay.
is okay.
Right. Well, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but a lot of those companies are utilizing data that they capture about us that's not for our benefit because we don't even know what it is.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll turn around and say some of this AI may actually may be to where we can finally get to utilize some of the, the data that we're letting go of. Right?
Yeah, very true. Very
Relinquishing.
true. Yeah, and again, I don't want to make it sound like it's too. It's like AI is all roses, and you're right. I mean, I think there are going to be some things we're going to have to pay attention to as far as like, okay, is there an opportunity where people can utilize, with any new innovation, people can utilize it for bad things as well too.
Sure.
And so,
Absolutely.
not being oblivious to that, I think we got to keep our eyes on some of that stuff
Sure.
as well too.
Sure. Yeah. It's discipline, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's no different than anything else we have.
Yeah. But what I've found is that when people start sharing examples of how they utilized it, it tends to get people further down a pathway. So I shared some of my farm examples. I'm not going to ever advise people to not to use an attorney when you need to use an attorney. But I mean, I've had some contracts of disputes on a piece of ground that I owned where it had a cell phone tower lease on it, and again, it was a situation where I was going to acquire the land from a person who was actually the widow of the individual who had actually signed the contract. So that company out in New York City knew that she had no idea about that. They were kind of going to try to take advantage of her. Then they were going to try to take advantage of me. And again, the advice that we were given is just kind of wait it out. Well, they kept on dragging their feet, and there's a real life example. And again, I could have paid my attorney to do this, but I'm like, I think I know what's right here. I'm just gonna play with this, so I literally was turkey hunting on a early morning, and I took that entire contract, the cell phone lease contract too, put all that into AI and said, hey, draft me an email to send to this attorney for this other company, as well as their CEO as well. And once I found those emails of everybody, I just sent that thing for 3 straight weeks. Eventually, my problem got taken care of at that point in time, and now, was that a situation where I truly replaced an attorney? No, but I found it again. I knew all that information, but there were 7 or 8 pages of legal documentation
Sure.
that I'm sure that person over there thought that, hey, eventually we'll just wait this thing out, and
Sure.
he'll roll over, and the widow, she just wants to be done with it anyway.
Sure.
And
Clean it up.
so there's an example of, again, whether it's contract writing. I know people that have been doing farm business plans, succession planning. I think is probably, again, people always talk about they don't know where the conversation starts. That could be a spot where it's a thought partner to help you out with that process as well too.
Helps take the emotion out of that because that's always an emotional situation.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it just is you say the emotion piece, but that is spot on because I think about whether it's emails or PowerPoint presentations. I do a lot of speaking at different things, and you'll be putting together a PowerPoint presentation, and you just can't help yourself. You start walking through in your mind, oh well, how are people going to react to this? I better go back. And all of a sudden, something that truly taking the time to put together the information doesn't take you that long.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you a long time to get through your emotion of going through all that. You can use AI to take the emotion completely out of it. So then you can work on refining the information as well as refining how you're going to deliver the information too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's a tool.
Yep.
Use it as you see fit.
Pair of pliers, man.
That's exactly right. That's a very
Sometimes
good.
you can hammer stuff with it. Sometimes you can twist with stuff
That's
with
right.
it. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can dig.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Sometimes you can throw it at somebody.
Sometimes you can pinch a finger.
That's right. Oh.
Yeah. What else do we need to cover? What else? What other hot topics do you have going on?
Oh.
AI or regardless?
AR regardless. Man, I don't know if I've got anything necessarily a hot topic. Do you want to go from a Becks perspective, or do you want to go just in
Any.
general? Yeah.
What's your yield goals for your farm? Let's talk about those.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about Becks. I mean, are you going to hit 325 bushel like your neighbor did last year? Or?
There's nobody in Shelby County, Missouri, that hit 325 unless
Really?
they're doubling up what 1 acre.
They may have. They may.
No,
have.
I don't know. I'd like to try to always. I'd like to be in that 225 to 230 range if I possibly can on corn. We've been blessed with some weather up there the last couple of years to raise some tremendously great corn yields. In our beans, we've just been like always this close to that last rain. Have had really good luck with April planted beans being in that mid upper 60s, and just have a tough time getting over the Humboldt 70 because you just don't catch that rain. But I tell you, one of the things I'm probably the most excited about on our farm that also applies to Becks is this Big Trotto seed treatment. Probably the best seed treatment I've seen come out in my lifetime when it comes to well, we think it's going to work on these things. We know it's going to work on all these things from sudden death syndrome to to soybean cyst nematode. But then we've got the added protection from a red crown rot standpoint. And then we also know it's going to work that much better on those other pests that we know we have. I mean, every year, soybean cyst nematode is out there. All right, well, this amps up that piece of it.
Right.
Sudden death syndrome, you know as well as I do, we're playing with a ticking time bomb by planting early every year.
Yep.
Well, when that takes a lot of that out of the equation, I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yep.
So Big Trotto is something that I'm really excited about. If people haven't taken a chance to look at it, I hope they do this coming year. And even if they don't get on their own farm, find out a neighbor farm that has it, because that looks pretty exciting.
Right.
To me.
Yeah, and the red crown rot piece is huge. I mean, when it comes, it'll come with a vengeance, right? It's
Oh,
not going
gosh.
to take it's not going to take 2 or 5 bushel. It's going to take 25 bushel.
And you've seen some of those maps that I have where that thing continues to expand.
Oh, yeah.
And the scary part about that one is it expands. Like we know more every year,
Sure.
but we find out the more we figure out that we know, the more we figure out we don't know too.
Oh,
So it's one of those deals where while you're busy diagnosing it, it's taking 30 bushel right
Yep.
off the top.
Yep.
Like, well, if you don't have to go through that, then why don't you figure out how to diagnose it, and I'm going ahead and get myself with the protection of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to throw caution to the wind with that and, make everybody think that they have, red crown rot specifically.
Right.
But I know that it's a lot more prevalent. I think we've misdiagnosed it. I mean, I know we found it here north on a customer of ours about 30 miles north. And,
Yeah.
we sent samples off to the lab to get it diagnosed. And they're like, we don't have that problem in Illinois. It's like, well, I can tell you where it came from in Illinois. We got this problem. And so, we were on with agronomists at the time. And, it was kind of a big deal. We thought it was all moved by dirt particles, right? Literally, meaning if a piece of equipment left a field with red crown rot, right, it's going to bring it to another field. And I think we're finding out now that's not really the case.
Yeah.
Right? And so, learn the hard way.
Yeah, we're blessed to have our agronomy education lead, Matt Montgomery, is probably the most forefront person on red crown rot to help us figure out that, diagnose that, because that's especially something I from what I've seen, and Matt would necessarily, I don't, this is a definitive, but you and I haven't, even though I'm in Northeast Missouri, we're down here in Southern Illinois, clay pan soils are prevalent. Well, it seems like tight clay soils get to deal with a lot of challenges at times that some of our buddies to the north don't necessarily deal with all the time.
Just two.
Yeah, just two. Yeah, just two. Yeah. Rain and none.
2 per day.
Yeah, 2 per day. I think so. That's probably of the things I think about in that world. It's going to be really cool. We're blessed. I don't want this to sound like a Becks commercial, but the reality is we're blessed to have a singular focus every morning when we wake up, and that's helping farmers succeed. And so I get to hear from some of my fellow colleagues that are still with the brand that I used to work for or other brands, and I hear about. Again, we're an organization run by people, so we're not perfect by any means. But man, I'm glad we don't have to worry about some other stuff that they have to be worried about. Our our sales pieces are going to show that. So we're gonna we're gonna have a chance to, as a company, to be sitting at north of another 1,000,000 acres of growth this year. And people talk about, well, you, at Becks, it seems like you're growing all the time, and there's growth here, growth there, and the reality is we keep on getting rewarded locally by doing the things that we're doing. Yeah, geography we expand once in a while, but the reality is, like, when you have really good people, you have really good products, and you have really good innovation and agronomy, people, and that's if you have those things, the customers will reward you. And if you don't, and if you aren't getting rewarded, you at least still have those three great things that you have the chance to help a farmer out with at that point in time.
Right attitudes and actions, consistency, right? I mean, Beck family's consistency, they're on their 5th generation now. So, I mean, that's a big piece.
So last week we had a chance, as a company, we every year we bring out the employees for State of the Company. And so that went from when I first started 11 years ago to being a 1-day event to now to get it to span across our entire employee base. It's 3 days. And so, of course, I had a chance to hear from Scott Beck. And it's always kind of, again, State of the Company, kind of similar to the State of the Union, right? You hear a little bit about how things are, but where we're going to. And so had a chance to hear from Scott Beck, had a chance to hear from Corey Beck, and he gave his non-negotiables that he gave at summer camp as well, too, that not everybody had a chance to hear all that. And then we also heard from Chris Beck as well. And I heard the comment more than once, Corey, no offense, but I mean, Chris is, Corey's gotten really good, is really good at presentations. Chris is right behind him, if not getting on his heels. So I guess the cool thing for me to see out of that was just, again, our long-term leadership is and what this company was founded off as far as the family morals and principles. It's there for a long time.
Well, it's consistency and it's passion.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Corey and Chris are both very passionate people.
Gosh,
Jason is as well. I mean, Scott and Sonny are obviously, and so that's the beauty of it.
Oh yeah.
So
I think Jason was at a leadership meeting. He wasn't, at least I didn't see him there. At least he was there the day that I was there. But yeah, well, it's so that's neat. Then plus it's just, I've said this since I've been here. I said it's like going to work every day with some of your best friends all the time. And again, I think that has to do with okay, whether it's our dealers, whether it's our employees, like everybody's got that singular mission of let's help a farmer out today. Did I help a farmer?
Right.
Great. Did I not? Okay, let's get better tomorrow type of deal. And that's a lot of fun.
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the biggest piece is the customers, the farmers. I mean, without those, none of us have a business, right? And so, we're not in the trait business.
Oh, right? No.
And so we're in the people business and the seed business. So without those, we have nothing.
100%. Yeah. Had a person that's thinking about joining our organization. They were out at Atlanta on one of our facility tours this week, and of course nobody in the room knew what that person was there for. And they had some farmers and some mix of some current customers as well as a new customer. And this individual has worked for other brands over time, and he could not get over. He said there was people in that room that were standing up and almost pounding their chest of, this is why you should plant Becks. If you're not planting Becks, this is why. And without customers like that, we don't exist. We don't exist. And it's been fun to see that advocacy. We just got done taking 6,000+ people down to a nice beach during the winter time frame, and I heard nothing but great stories from there. I think we're taking 1,000+ now to the Grand Cayman, the ones that qualify for that over the time frame, and I've heard a lot of. Again, it just the common thing I keep hearing back is it's fun to be surrounded by other farmers that have like-minded people. So it's been a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Look forward to be a lot of fun for the next years to come. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I said sometimes you don't have to be good. You just have not to be stupid, right? And so if we can kind of keep on that mindset, we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you'd like to discuss, or did we get it all covered?
No, I think we've got everything covered. I appreciate your willingness to talk about the AI, the commitment you've got to your customers too. This is another way of presenting information in a different way. And I know for me as a farmer, I keep on talking about that. I hardly listen to the radio at all anymore. But if I get a chance to listen to some of these types of things while I'm driving the tractor, or I'm going down the road or on the train heading to Colorado or whatnot, I appreciate you taking the extra effort to do this. I know customers do as well too.
Yeah, well, it's great. No, it's a good opportunity. We've talked about it for a long time, just never implemented it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you could make it. Appreciate
Yeah.
your time. I know you have a busy schedule, so
Everybody's got a busy schedule, but thank you again, and best of luck to you and your customers heading up for this planting season.
all right.
Thanks for all you do.
Yep. Thank you.
All
You're
right.
welcome.